Hey, good morning, Agora. It's May 17th. We're still at home. I'm still recording videos. I'd much rather be with everybody on Kozaraktad at church, uh, no masks, and just being together. Anyway, we're going to continue going through the Sermon on the Mount um, in Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Today, we're going to start with chapter 6, and Jesus is going to teach us something pretty important. Basically, how we should live our lives with Him in public. So let me read the passage, and then we'll jump into it. So Matthew 6, we're going to go 1 to 18. And beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And when you pray, you must not pray like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and on the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. Pray then like this: Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. And when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. So, as I read through this, you probably noticed some patterns, some things that Jesus kept going back to. One is Jesus talks about hypocrites quite a bit, 3 different times. So let's look at that. Let's see what he means about hypocrites and what is a hypocrite. The other thing is he kept talking about secrets, doing things in secret, your Father who's in secret, just kind of the secret life of the disciple. So let's look at that and see what that means. And then, of course, the big one, the Lord's Prayer, which is right in the middle of this whole passage. And what we have to remember is that this is in the middle of a passage where Jesus is talking about hypocrites and living a secret life. This isn't just something where he's like, oh, by the way, this is how you pray. It has something, well, it has everything to do with his teaching before and after that. So let's break this into 3 parts. So the first part is going to be, what is a hypocrite? The second is, what is this whole business about secrets, this secret life, secret giving, secret praying? What is this all about? What is Jesus talking about? And then third, we're going to look at the Lord's Prayer and ask the question, what is Jesus teaching us about how we should pray? So again, as we look at, especially the part about the Lord's Prayer, we have to remember that this is in the context of not being a hypocrite and also having a secret life with the Father. There's so much teaching about the Lord's Prayer, but it's really important that we remember the context of what Jesus is teaching this in, because we're going to see it has everything to do with what he's teaching in this first part of chapter 6. So overall, Jesus is going to give us a warning. He's going to say, don't be like this. And then he's going to give a reminder. Instead, don't forget this. Remember this. And the Lord's Prayer falls into this remember this category. So let's look at the warning. And this is a warning about hypocrites. And this is the kind of person Jesus warns us not to be. So in the passage, just from what we can see, who are they? Well, for one thing, we know them because hypocrisy is all around us, and especially in the church. It's you just Google it and you can see one of the biggest reasons why people dislike the church or dislike Christianity is because they perceive hypocrites, and we can't just pass it off and say, well, they're stupid, or they're seeing things that aren't there. No, we have to admit that hypocrisy is in the church. Actually, Jesus wouldn't be teaching about this if it weren't such a danger. It's also a big reason why people leave the church. So this danger is real. Jesus is not just saying, hey, look at these guys over here. Look how bad they are. Don't be like them. Jesus, as our master, as our teacher, sees the danger that could be present in our own lives, and he's warning us. You're going to be tempted to be like this? Don't. He's saying, watch out for yourself. And so we really need to be honest that in our churches, in our own lives, hypocrisy is something that can easily creep up on us and grow in our life. And before we know it, we're living this kind of life that's completely disconnected from who we are in Christ. In Jesus' teaching here, these hypocrites are religious people. They're doing the things that Jesus' disciples are expected to be doing. They're doing works of righteousness. Jesus starts this passage by talking about doing works of righteousness, and he gives us 3 examples of these works of righteousness: giving, praying, and fasting. So he's assuming that we're going to be doing these things as disciples. He doesn't say, hey, do these things. He says, when you pray, when you give, when you fast. He's telling us basically, be careful not to be like this. So what exactly are they doing? Well, I already said they're doing righteousness. They're doing the things that the outward appearance seems like really good things. And actually they are good things. Giving to the poor, praying, fasting, these are good things. But why? This is the thing. What's the motivation for the hypocrite? Why is he doing what he does? Well, Jesus is very clear. The hypocrite, he or she, does it for praise. They want people to see them doing their works, and they want people to say and think, oh, wow, that person is really holy, or that person is really serious about their religion. Oh my gosh, I could never be like that person. Look how amazing they are. They're doing this to receive praise. And that's why Jesus said, well, they have their reward. They got human reward, which fades away, doesn't last forever. And so how does the hypocrite, so we know why he wants praise. So how does he do it? Well, if you look at this and you think about where the word hypocrite comes from, it's related to acting, to putting on a face. In Hungarian, it's easier to see. The Hungarian word is literally showing a picture that isn't real. I think we can think of the hypocrite here as a performer, an actor, and like all actors, their reward is praise. He gives to the poor, and look what he does. It's a performance. He makes a big deal about it. It's like a big production, like going to the cinema and watching this guy give, because there's this whole big thing going on. When he prays, again, it's a performance. He's acting. When he fasts, again, it's a performance. He's taking on this character. He's distorting his face. He's doing these things. He's performing. This isn't who he is as a person. He's acting. He's like, is Tom Cruise really a spy? Is he really a fighter pilot? No. He's a guy who does this in movies. But that's not who he is. So when we're watching Tom Cruise, run through the streets of Prague and do all this spy stuff, that's not who he actually is. He's just a guy, but he's pretending to be something else. And that's exactly what these hypocrites are. They're acting, they're performing. This isn't who they actually are. This person, the hypocrite, doesn't actually care for poor people. They care about the praise they receive from giving to poor people. They don't really care about a relationship with God when they pray. They want to be perceived as somebody holy. Like, look, I can approach God. I can talk to him. Can you believe how close I am with God? When actually they don't really know him. And they don't care about giving up their physical desires, like food or whatever they're fasting from, to have a stronger relationship with God. No, they want, again, to be perceived as holy and better and just this other level of religious person, Christian, whatever. The hypocrite cares about praise. They care about human praise. In order to get that, you perform. So he performs to get praise, and because he's an actor. Actors live off of the applause, the clapping, the good reviews, the 5 stars, the 90% on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever. This is what hypocrites do. They live for the feedback, the, oh my gosh, you're so great. And Jesus says very clearly, don't be like this. He's telling us, check your motives. Why are you doing this? Are you saying that beautiful prayer in church because you really feel this and you're praying to your God and you're just inviting others into the fellowship that you have with God? Or are you doing it so that people think, man, that guy, that girl can really pray? It's it's usually just right under the surface. And Jesus is saying, be careful, look out for this, because it's really dangerous and it can take over your entire life. So this is his warning to the disciples. Don't be a hypocrite. Following me, Jesus says, is not an act. It's not a performance. So don't make it one. Don't turn it into something that is not. So that's the warning. Don't be a hypocrite. So what's the reminder? Well, the reminder is, well, let me say this. When Jesus gives warnings, he almost always gives a reason for the warning and then a way out, a way to live differently. So what's this warning about? Well, the warning is about not pretending, not acting, not performing like God is not there. Because ultimately what the hypocrite is doing is they've erected this other God, this one who doesn't exist, and they're performing in a way that he does exist, but he doesn't. And Jesus, in this reminder, is reminding his disciples, no, he's there. He's reminding them that the primary reality, the primary relationship in their lives is with their Father in heaven, because he sees them, he loves them, and he rewards them. He wants to bless them for being obedient children, for showing their love for the Father in obedience. Jesus is very clear that we show our love for him and for the Father by doing what he says. It's not out of, oh my gosh, I have to do what Jesus says. There's so much love and so much connection in relationship with our Father through Christ that naturally we want to do what he desires from us. We want to do his will. And that's what Jesus is reminding us of. He's there. He wants to bless you. He wants to watch you do these amazing, wonderful things that he's prepared for you beforehand. So don't pretend like he's not there. He's reminding us that we need to have, he's reminding us about that we live in and this is where the secret comes in. We have a secret life with the Father. So what is this secrecy about? So he's saying, don't, give in secret. Don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Go into a closet and pray in secret. Is he saying never give to a homeless person if you're in the Metro Underground and all these people are around? Don't give money or food to them because people will see and then you've lost your reward. Is that what he's saying? Is he saying never pray together in public? Never, when you're in a restaurant, pray before your meal. Don't ever do that. That's a sin. Is he saying when you're in church and you just need to all pray silently alone, never pray in a group? Is that what he's saying? Is he saying that when you're fasting and your buddy's like, hey, you want to grab some lunch? Are you supposed to lie and say, well, yeah, no, I'm not hungry, and just and don't tell them that you're fasting? Is that what Jesus is saying? Is he saying live this secretive kind of life where you have, in essence, kind of a double life? No. And how do we know that's not what he's saying? Well, first of all, Jesus did public works of righteousness. If it's in the Bible and we see him healing people, feeding hungry people, doing all these things, it was in public. I mean, people were there to see it because it's written down. There were eyewitnesses. So Jesus lived very publicly in his doing of good works. Actually, in earlier in the sermon in Matthew 5, he tells the disciples, do your good works, be light, do your good works in such a way that people will see your good works and give glory to your Father who's in heaven. So he's expecting us to do these good works, these works of righteousness in public. So what is this secrecy about? What could he possibly mean? He prayed. for instance, just to keep pushing this a little bit further, he prayed in public at Lazarus' tomb. One of his very good friends has just died. He doesn't just go to the tomb and say, Lazarus, come out. He prays a very public prayer. He's crying as he does it. It's a very intimate moment between him and his Father, but he's bringing people into this, and he's speaking out loud. When he feeds the 5,000, he asks God to bless the food. And actually, even in John 17, the high priestly prayer, where Jesus is praying for his disciples then and his disciples in the future, who is us, the disciples were sitting there. If you read 16 and it goes into 17, you can see that they're listening to this prayer, this very intimate prayer between him and his Father. There are people listening. So what does he mean about this secrecy? And what does this secrecy have to do with not being a hypocrite? Because he ties it together. Don't be a hypocrite because you need to do things in secret because your Father sees in secret. So let's go back to the hypocrite. Who is the hypocrite's audience? It's other people. It's himself, herself, and it's other people. They're doing things so that other people will see and get their reward. Jesus is reminding his disciples, us, our audience is our Father. First and only. When Jesus was praying the prayer in John 17, he wasn't praying it so that the disciples would learn something. He's talking to his Father, and other people are listening. And what they're doing is they're fellowshipping with Jesus, with the Father, by listening to Jesus talk directly to the Father. Jesus' audience in John 17 is God the Father. It's not the disciples, but they're there. So Jesus is reminding his disciples that their audience is the Father. So your Father sees you when you give to the poor. Even if nobody else does, he sees you. And even if everybody else does, he sees you. So make him your audience. He sees you and he rewards you, not just based on the good works you do, but are you doing it as unto him? Are you doing it focusing entirely on him? I don't care who sees me. I'm doing this for you, Father. I'm praying this prayer. I'm fasting for this week or this day. I'm giving this person a sandwich. I'm giving this person in the underground my lunch so that he can eat, because I'm doing this for you so that you can see my obedience. The secret life is about constantly remembering that no matter where you are or who you're with, you're alone in your closet praying, or you're in a big crowd, or you're in church, your Father in heaven is with you, and he sees you and he hears you. And your ultimate, primary, most vital relationship in your life, the audience that matters the most, is God the Father, your Father. So Jesus is reminding his disciples, which is us, keep in your mind that your Father in heaven is your audience. This is about intimacy, ultimately. It's about keeping in mind the most important and intimate relationship that you have, is with your Creator and your Father. So think about it like this. Think of a really close relationship you have with your spouse or your parent or friend or somebody that is very, very close to you. Think about how much that relationship influences how you do things and how you do things in relation to them. So, for instance, I'm married to Denise, and because of our relationship, because of our connection, our secret connection, there are things I don't share with everyone. Why? Because I'm faithful to her. She's my ultimate audience as her husband, and she's my wife. I don't want to make being her husband a performance. I'm not really worried about being perceived as a certain kind of husband. Oh, look at that guy. Look what a great husband he is. No, what I'm concerned with is actually being a good husband for Denise. I'm concerned with what she thinks about me as a husband. I don't I care what you guys think, but I really don't, because ultimately Denise is the one who I have the relationship with, and so it's more important what she thinks about me as her husband. But if I yelled at her in public, or I ridiculed her in public, what would you think? Well, he doesn't really have a very good relationship with her. So the way you see me is important, but my motivation is not to be perceived as a good husband. It is actually to be a good husband. And it's not completely the same, but it's very similar to the relationship that we have with God the Father. It's a secret, intimate relationship where God the Father is our audience, our primary audience, our only audience that matters. And we have this connection with him, this secret connection that influences and covers every aspect of how we live our life in public. So hopefully I'm doing things that show my love for God, and with my wife show my love for Denise. But go back to Denise. I do things that show my love for my wife as a good husband. But during my day, I don't really ever talk about my role as a husband. Hey, by the way, I'm a really good husband. I don't, post on Facebook, hey, by the way, I'm an awesome husband. But my secret, intimate relationship with her is never out of my mind. It is so much a part of who I am that I never don't remember that she's there, even if she's not with me. She can't read my mind and or my thoughts. And when I'm not in the house with her or wherever, then she doesn't see me. So she doesn't know what I'm doing, but she's there. God's different. Our Father's different. He is with us all the time. He does see us all the time, except that we now cannot see him. So we tend to forget that he is our audience. He is the one that we are living our life for.